Welcome to our AEW Revolution review show here on All Elite Radio. We are a mere 48 hours removed from AEW's big springtime pay-per-view event. Ashlee, do you remember last week when I said that AEW had get this booking well and we're heading into probably the best pay-per-view in a long time for AEW? Well, they got it 95% right.
Yeah, I mean, a very strong pay-per-view, maybe a questionable ending. We can talk about that when we get to the main event, but I mean, I would say a good solid 5 of these matches were like built to the skies with story, with everything, and coming out of it, we got a lot of great stuff coming too, it seems.
Well, let's go ahead and get right to it. The very first match we're going to talk about, the opening match. And I was happy they made this the opening match of the card. It's Heyman Adam Page versus MJF. And this is the MJF mentally break down through the match, questioning the fans, why him, not me? And it leads into MJF losing this match.
This is this is one of those fight forever feuds for me. We've kind of seen what they've had at the start of AEW, and now finally kind of sinking their teeth into this. I feel like I could watch this go for a little bit. I'm hoping this is not the end and that we're getting more into this because that was great. Like I feel like this is why MJF is such a phenomenal character. Like it just never stops with his layers and how he can change things up and how like dimensional he is.
True. And yet again, when the money is on the table, MJF can show you that he is one of the best professional wrestlers in the world.
Absolutely.
And I gotta say, the spot where he did the running pile driver onto the chair, oh my freaking word.
That was brutal. And it it looked insane too. Um I feel like w- because MJF isn't always in the ring wrestling, he will kind of, heal his way out of matches and things like that. I feel like every time he does have a match, we have to have this like meeting where we're like, oh yeah, MJF is one of the best wrestlers in the world, isn't he? And it feels like people forget so quickly. And I love that every time he goes out there, he just shuts everybody up.
Exactly, because he understands when to pull out the heavy duty offense. He doesn't have to do it week in, week out. He can rely on his mic work and what he does in a normal TV match. But when it gets to the pay per view, he can throw some extra spices and stuff into it, just a little bit.
Oh yeah, and already working with somebody like Hangman, we knew going in it was going to be a great match, and coming out of it, like I just want to see more of this. That Angel's wings that Hangman turned to use on MJF was that I feel like that was almost comparable to the tombstone on the chair.
That was brutal. I've seen MJF's face land on that mat from that angel wings. I was like, oh boy, I think we just lost MJF for a while.
Truthfully, when he turned around, I thought his nose was bleeding for a second, but I think it was just like a shadow. And I was like, "Oh, thank God," because I was like, all I could see was like a broken nose or something coming up for him.
So overall, this was a great match. I like the finish. It leaves both characters in a good place. We can see where Heyman Adam Page goes from here because we still have this question. Do we lead him back to the AEW World Title? Is he ready to get back in that picture, or what do we do with Heyman?
I don't know, but with Swerve in the title picture and Moxley, throwing Hangman into that is a mighty tempting presentation here because the history he has with both of those guys, putting the world title in between them, I'd be very interested. Plus, a few weeks back, we did see Hangman sort of seeking out Swerve, and we never really got any sort of follow ups from that. And I'd be curious to see if they'd still kind of pursue whatever that angle was going to be.
Exactly. Is Heyman Adam Page still wanting to make sure that Swerve is never again the AEW World Champion, or has he lightened up on Swerve Sutton? Stay
So,
tuned.
yeah, Hangman being an AEW original could be a very interesting. Mox wants to harm AEW. Could Hangman end up saying like this personal stuff is not as big as, you know, trying to rip this away from Moxley, and that could certainly eh, maybe not make them friends, but you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
You know, you beat me to the punch because I was literally going to say that. I was like, the enemy of my enemy is my tag team partner when I need one.
And can we coexist? You know?
Okay, we're moving on to the second match of the evening. It's your AEW TBS Championship match, and Mercedes Moné and Mummy did one hell of a job. This was a very entertaining match, and this is a second in the series of matches to them because Mercedes Moné beat her back last summer at a Stardom event, if I remember right. So we got to see this for a second time, and Mercedes Moné has basically shut everybody up because she's back being one of the best female wrestlers on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. This match was fantastic. Um, and I think kind of with the excitement of some of the later stuff that came, maybe got a little buried, but was still outstanding. Momo Watanabe kicked Mercedes Moné so hard in the face at one point that I was holding my jaw. Like, that was insane, and she looked great. Like, you know, the crowd got behind her. There was a lot of dueling chants, very loud chants for both of these women, and like you said, I feel like Mercedes did take a quite a bit of a beating when she first came into AEW, trying to find her like her rhythm and, you know, adjusting to a new system and everything. But now that she's adjusted herself, she's had like now match after match after match that's been fantastic. Like you said, you can't take anything away from her now. She's certainly found her groove.
Exactly. And at the end of this match, they panned up to a suite and we saw Billy Starks there taking notes, foreshadowing probably the next match for the TBS Championship. And it's probably going to be Billy Starks first, but we know that the Minion Overlord is going to be there watching Billy Starks have this match. So I'm still under the feeling that we're going to get Athena versus Mercedes Moné all in Texas.
Take my money now, then.
So we're moving on to the third match of the evening. It's your number one contender match for the right to face whoever is the AEW World Champion, as we have Ricochet versus Swerve Strickland. And boy, did these two guys just basically beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah, again, Swerve just proving his worth with every match he's had. Um, Another great match with a great build. With some things in here, like we thought last week that maybe we would see a Prince Nana turn, and I like that. We got a little bit of that. We got a little bit of friction between Swerve and Nana at the beginning, but ultimately, no. Look at that reaction at the end of the match when they reunited. Like that, no, that was the call. That was the right call, and I'm glad that even though sometimes we see things coming or may want things, like no, that was you know, that was the wrong call. Like having him hand Nana back the robe at the end of the match after beating the hell out of bald ass Ricochet was a great ending, and the crowd certainly backed it.
You know, there's a point in this match where we see Ricochet and Persona pulling on the robe. They're in the corner, and I'm going like, "Oh, this is going to be the finish where it's going to cause Nana to hit Swerve or Swerve hit Nana. Ricochet gets the robe, cheap win, and it basically gives Ricochet more heat if you can imagine him having more heat in this company." And I was thinking maybe they're going to do that. Then, like you said, we had Nana leave there for a little bit, and I'm going like, is this how we break up this friendship? Is this partnership over here? I'm like you, happy to see Princess Nana back with Swerve because they are a good pair.
Yeah, and like I said, just validated by the excitement of everybody doing the dance at the end.
Okay, so we're up to our fourth match of the evening. It's the AEW Continental Championship match, Okada versus Brody King. And I gotta say, this was a freaking hard-hitting slobber knocker match where Okada finally had somebody who is as physical as he is.
Yeah, and these pounds of Hellboys, they can't be denied for much longer. We're gonna have to put some sort of gold on them. Both of these guys going out and having these quality matches with Okada of all people in the past few months has been you can't we can't keep beating around the bush. We got to get these guys into a title picture. So
I agree because Buddy Matthews had a great one with Okada back in Grand South Australia. Brody King really had a great match showing here with this one. I honestly would have flipped the title here. I was ready to have Brody King beat Okada. Then everybody started going like, "Oh, wait a minute. Okay, Kenny Omega is in the title match. Maybe it's title for title at All in Texas." So once Okada won this one, I kind of figured out the ending to the Tatesha versus Omega match. I kind of went, "Oh, we're going this direction." And hey, if you're going to give me Okada versus Omega 4 or 5, hey, sign me up. I'm good for it. I'll give you my money.
yeah, and I feel like that is going to be the case. I feel like we're kind of maybe fast tracking that for maybe All In.
Hey, I'm not gonna complain one bit, not one bit
I
whatsoever.
don't know if we're gonna get something like Athena and Mercedes and Okada and Omega on a card. Um, I'll pay now.
Okay, so we're up to our fifth match of the evening. It's the AEW World Tag Team Title match. It's the Hurt Syndicate versus the Outrunners, and it was 8 minutes and 40 seconds. And to me, this was the perfect way to have the Outrunners have a match with your dominant World Tag Team champions. They had a little hope spot. The Hurt Syndicate took this a little bit lightly at the beginning. Then Shelton Benjamin got serious, and they went to work. And the ending of this match where they basically have Shelton Benjamin nailed a knee on both gentlemen, then tossed the guy into a spear from Bobby Lashley. Rinse and repeat. 1, 2, 3. We hurt people. The Hurt Syndicate wins.
Yeah, no, I liked this too because it kind of showed maybe a little bit of arrogance on a part of the Hurt Syndicate. We saw them almost essentially help the Outrunners get into this position to be the number one contenders by distracting their opponents in the number one contendership match and stuff like that. And it seemed like maybe they were like, "Oh, we'll put these guys in and we'll get that quick easy W." But the Outrunners aren't really a pushover. They legitimately beaten some teams clean, some top teams in AEW clean. So I think the Hurt Syndicate was very surprised by their output. But like you said, nothing more than a quick spot for them. But they did hold their own for the first few minutes with the Hurt Syndicate.
They did. And honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch down the road a little bit once the Hurt Syndicate has gone through some more tag teams. And I wouldn't mind seeing the Outrunners have a short tag team title run. I mean, you could have a short tag team title run with these guys, and it would be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been months and they still get a great crowd reaction live. So
Okay, so the sixth match on this card, and to me, after watching the whole pay per view, this should have been the freaking main event. This is my match of the night. It's the AEW Women's World Title match. Timeless Tony Storm versus Mariah May. It went just under 13 minutes, and these ladies put in about 26 minutes of work in 13 minutes.
yeah. Um I could talk about this match the rest of the night. This whole thing, phenomenal. From start to end, I loved every second of it. And this was, like you said, it was just brutal. I mean, from drop kicks out on the stage to jumping off the side of the stage, glass covered fists. I mean, just glass shards everywhere. These women beat the absolute hell out of each other. And I did see some people say, like, oh, it was a short match. Like, I feel like that's why it was a short match. Your body cannot be withstanding that for 26, 30 minutes, you know?
Exactly. I feel like after the spot where you see Tony Storm do a diving power bomb off the stage into a set of tables. And honestly, actually, when I first saw that, I didn't think Mariah May made the tables. I thought she landed over the tables and took it straight on the floor. And I'm going like, oh my God, this is going not end well for Mariah May. But luckily, she was good from that spot forward. And we just see these two ladies bleed like crimson mass. And we saw the shoe come back into play. They hit every high note in this trilogy. And
Oh, everything. Even Luther was there at the beginning. He got taken out pretty quickly by Mariah May. But even him being there, them going through the table, the shot at the end of, like, Tony Storm sprawled out over Mariah May, the end up on the Titantron in the big black and white graphics. Ah, just perfect. Like, RJ City, you are a genius, and the fact that you have not gotten your graphic yet is a damn shame.
Oh, he has earned this graphic 10 times over for this feud. This is,
Oh,
without question, the best feud in AEW's 5-year history.
it's it's gotta be. It's so good. I truly, like, both of those women coming out of this, I am nothing but excited for what both of them do from here on out for, like, the rest of time.
See, it's gonna be interesting because Tony Storm's still your champion, so who does she face next? Who's available for her to face? And do we see a break for Mariah May? Do we cool her off for a little bit and not have her around and she reappears down the road maybe? I have no idea. But like I said last year, like Mariah May is my most valuable professional wrestler of 2024. Now she's doing it in 2025. This lady is gold, and AEW is lucky to sign her before the WWE had a chance to.
Yeah, and you're not wrong there because it's not just the in-ring, she has shown how valuable she is in every aspect that we've seen so far. In promos, the in-ring, even on commentary, she was fantastic. So, I mean, this well-rounded and this good, it's crazy. She is definitely going to be a champion again and soon.
You know, I wouldn't mind seeing her face Mercedes Moné, just saying.
Yeah. Hey, there's a but I wanna see her take on, like, Megan Bayne, Mercedes Moné. Let's get all of these ladies lined up.
Okay, Ashley, so we had the match of the night, the greatest finish to a trilogy in AEW history. What match do you follow this with? I mean, normally I would feel bad for people that had to follow this match, but match number 7 was your AEW International Championship, where you had Candy, oh my God, Omega versus Katesha, the Alpha, and these two guys went, okay, we got to raise our level. We got to take it to a 12. And for 28 minutes or so, they took it to a whole different level.
Yeah, they beat the absolute hell out of each other, and Kenny Omega is doing his damnedest to, like, Bryan Danielson us every single match now. His stomach is the new Danielson neck, and every single time. I'm like, "Don't do this." That there was a spot where Takeshita, like, wrapped Kenny around the table, like, gut first on the as the table was on its side. I was like, "Kenny, you don't have to take that bump. You could have just flattened out on the floor, it would have been easier." He took, like, the metal side of the table into his gut.
I know, actually, he could go like, wait a minute, Takesha, I'm an EVP. I vetoed this. No, no, brother, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, some occasional Dawn interference though in this one as expected.
You know, I was happy they did it in this match, and we didn't see that much later on with Don Callis. So, like you said when we did our preview show, you were hoping that it would be reserved for one match, and instead of the way I was doing it, where I was having Don doing laps around the arena trying to interfere every time he could.
I mean, the Don Callis family got involved in a lot of stuff last night, even outside of this. But I mean, like you said, Kenny Omega kind of felt like the foregone conclusion when we saw the Okada match earlier. I'm gonna say a hot take here, though. I'm still not the biggest fan of taking this belt off Takeshita right now.
Well, you know, my friend, you're not alone because I was kind of going like, I feel like Omega could handle a third loss here, and wouldn't it be great to build the young Katusha with like, hey, I beat Okada, I beat Omega 3 times, and I'm still the champion, and I still feel like there's money for Okada versus Takesha.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot of money there. And you know, Takeshita's not just under contract with AEW, and I feel like when that time comes, there's a company that really loves Takeshita and would put him right at the top as soon as he went there full time, and that would be New Japan. And either way, I watch both companies. I'll watch him regardless. But AEW kind of might miss the boat with him if they don't want to put him in the title picture soon.
Ashley, that company you're talking about kind of needs a new face to replace a lot of people that left the company. And if I was them and I had a chance, I'd be like, Katisha, what kind of number did Tony give you? How about this one right here? What do you want?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, with the way like Hiroshi Tanahashi talks about him, the way the commentary like just gushes over him, I know the talents there would love to have him, and it's one of those things where like yeah, you have him under contract, and so does New Japan, but man, he could make the choice to kind of go with New Japan on a more full time basis if we're not gonna kind of put him in the spot like I feel he rightfully belongs, and that's in the title picture, at least the world title picture by now, because the talent he's shown, the growth he's shown, I think working with Don Callis has been great for him. It's kind of helped him round out this heel character. I want to see him in just a more prominent spot.
True. I got a feeling that maybe we see Katisha take some time away from AEW and maybe he just slide over to New Japan Pro Wrestling for a while we have Omega and this build to a possible rematch with Okada in the summer, and we just put Takeshita to the side for a couple of months, and we bring him back. We'll just have to wait and see. Now this is like the session of the pay per view where you go great match, and oh by the way, the next one up, your semi main event is a steel cage grudge match, and it was a grudge match. It's Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher. It went about 29 minutes, and these guys bled for about 27 minutes of this.
Yeah, this one was we talked about Mariah May and Tony Storm being brutal. This was that brutality matched on the men's side. Um, that Spanish Fly is going to stick with me for a bit because that's too high to be doing a Spanish Fly from Will Ospreay.
That was my thought too, actually. As soon as I saw that, I was going like, is he going to try to attempt a Spanish fly from the top of the cage? And I'm like, yes, he is. Okay. Hey, AEW, you need to put that clip in the opening of Dynamite and Collision for the next 2 years because I'm hoping Will Ospreay doesn't break that move out ever again because it scared me to hell to death.
Yep.
But now since they did it and they were okay, put that in your opening. That is something that catches people's eyes. Okay, that was a great spot.
Yeah, and it was the whole match was great. Tony Khan really knew what he was doing, putting his chips behind Kyle Fletcher. He's he's more than proved that given a little bit of time here, he will be in the main event picture.
It's a credit to Will Ospreay being willing to do the work here to build a guy that he worked with in New Japan Pro Wrestling inside the United Empire, being Kyle Fletcher. And I love the fact that Kyle Fletcher, halfway through this match, he's desperate. He pulls out a United Empire like elbow pad. He's like, "Look, hey, we're friends. Forgive me." And Will's like, "Hell no."
Yeah, no, rightfully so. Kyle Fletcher has made his life a hell for the past few months. Um, we got some more Mark Davis involvement. Still no real kind of like updates on kind of like his status with the Don Callis family, but seemingly he seemed just as mad at Osprey. He didn't seem like he was coming into too conflicted this time around.
No, he really didn't seem too conflicted. And I would have been annoyed at somebody kicked the cage door in my face. So yeah, I would have been like Mark Davis. I'm like,
Very true.
forget this. But I gotta say, that was my favorite. After the women's match, this cage match was my second favorite match of the evening. Then we get to the AEW World Title match. It's your main event. And actually, I said 95% of the show was great. This match was fine up to the ending moments of this. And allow me to. We start off with Adam Copeland coming down. The fans sing his song. We had a great moment. Great moment. John Moxley walks through the crowd. We get the match started. Everything's going fine. Then this hooded figure pops out from underneath the ring and whops Cope with the contract case. And it turns out to be Christian Cage.
My
What?
first thought after that was, he did this right in front of the referee. He wasn't involved in the match. Why was that not a disqualification at the very least?
Exactly. And my thought was, wait a minute, we know who has the contract. Why do he have to have a hoodie? I was I was thinking somebody was debuting. I was going like, who is this? And this turns around, it's Christian. And normally I'm cool with Christian. And I'm going like, oh, it's Christian Cage.
Truly. And I think that kind of encapsulates what a lot of the fan base felt like watching this, because like you said, the match itself is fine. It's not a bad match. It's not coming off the excitement though, I think of those previous 3 matches we just discussed, that's one of the best 3-match runs in a pay-per-view that I've ever seen. And then to kind of cap it off with this match that's it's fine. It's there. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. We've often talked about AEW not needing to do debuts or big turns or big swerves. This was a time that if you were going to choose this as your main event, you needed a bigger swerve. You needed a bigger debut. You needed kind of something to justify it, especially coming off those previous 3 matches.
Honestly, looking at this backwards after seeing the pay per view, I'm going like, this match is a victim of poor match placement. And I know Tony Khan lives and dies with the idea that the AEW World Title match should be your main event. And normally I agree with it. But if you know you have a hot match in Mariah May versus Thomas Tony Storm, you know you have Kyle Fletcher versus Will Ospreay, and Contestant versus Omega. I'm sure that title match can be slid back to the middle of the show, and nobody would been the wiser about it.
Yeah, I like I said, kind of a weird flat way to end such an exciting pay-per-view. Um, I think it was also very telling that the crowd seemed very into the idea of Christian Cage actually winning.
Yeah, because everybody loves a title change. And normally, when you have this contract briefcase for the WWE, 80% of the time you get the title change. And I was thinking like, "Oh, this would be cool." Christian kinda cheats out his best friend for the title, and we just go on with Cope versus Cage for the AEW World Title. Cool. I even love the spot where John Moxley has him in the Bulldog choke, and Christian Cage is smart enough to put his hand on Cope for the 1, 2, and forces John Moxley to pull him away from it.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I felt like that was kind of the point where the crowd was most into it, was, like, during the Christian popping up, and then him almost getting the victory, I think, got the loudest reaction at that point. Um, it's it was such a weird thing because we talked about how when Mox first won this title, it felt like a blood feud that he was going into. Then that ended very quickly, and we kind of got this Cope and Mox stuff, which it's a good feud, but it just feels like they're just fighting for the title, whereas before it felt like Moxley was fighting against something far more than just wanting to be the champion. Um, I'm glad we I guess I'm glad we got rid of the contract. At least it's out of the way now. We don't have to consistently worry about, when is Christian going to cash this in? When is it gonna happen? It's done. It's over with. Mox has beaten Cope. Cope is out of the picture. And now we can focus on this swerve in Mox, which has me completely intrigued because that post-match stuff was fantastic.
Yes, we'll get to the post match just in a second. But you said that Mox beat Cope. Cope didn't tap out. Cope didn't get pinned.
That's true. That does leave a back door, I guess, opening for him.
Since I realized that last on Sunday night watching this pay per view, I was going, "Are we punting this down to Dynasty? Are we getting another month of Cope versus Moxley?" And I was going like, "Please no, just no."
No, I don't think we can with Swerve being in the picture now. I mean, like I said, it might leave something down the line, but I mean, it could just be like Cope coming back at Mox just for that. I mean, I don't know. It's I feel like it might be a little too early to call, but I don't think we go right back into Mox versus Cope, especially with the reaction it got.
Well, I gotta say, this match did do one favor. It made Wheeler Yuta look useful for one time in his AEW career.
Yeah, that's true. Moxley's finally like the one time I actually needed it. Thank you. No Pac, no Claudio, no one else, no Marina Shafir. You know, he needed you to come through, and he did.
Now, our buddy, our guy that we love to death, Jay White, he was a little slow on the draw on the save, I gotta say. A little slow on the draw on the save. Then they made him look like a dumb babyface because since he had the contract case in his hand, I knew exactly what was gonna happen. He was gonna accidentally hit Cope with it. I was just happy that was not the end of the match.
Yeah, no, and I figured coming out of it, it was fun while it lasted. Jay White and Cope running around causing shenanigans for the Death Riders, but I kind of need Jay White to get back to Jay White. Like, I want to see like the catalyst. I want to see this conniving bastard that we all love. And I think coming out of this, I kind of see possibly, I think the obvious Cope versus Jay White in the future because Cope's not going to be happy about this.
No, he's not gonna be happy about it. But I will be happy with a Cope versus White feud, and it should be a good feud, and it might be the end of babyface Jay White, and we get back to the catalyst of professional wrestling, which we kinda sort of miss.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was fun while it lasted with the babyface stuff, but I think Jay White does his best work as a heel, and I'd like to see him get back to it, especially with the guns back. Like, I don't know if we're bringing them back together, but I would like to see the Bang Bang Gang get back together.
I feel like there's a run there. I feel like you need that group together just for a little bit. Then you can break them apart if you want to, make Jay White the heel and keep the guns babyface for a bit. Who knows? But let's go this way. have a hot take myself as I was watching this pay per view, and especially with this. Are the Death Riders AEW's version of TNA's Aces and Eights?
I mean, I guess I could see some similarities. Um, I I'm hoping that AEW can figure out something. Like, I'm hoping the Swerve feud maybe helps them pick things up. I I feel like they lost so much momentum with this storyline, and they just haven't been able to get it back.
I think they had a good start to this Death Riders run, and they had an idea of where it was going, but like by World's End, it seemed like they kind of lost the pacing to the story, or they lost the chapter or something. They're going like, "What do we do here? What can we do?" And they started throwing things to the wall and see what sticks. And I just wish companies would stop trying to do the invasion angle or like the takeover angle, because outside of a few times like the NWO back in the '90s, it hardly ever works right.
Right, and like we were saying, like, having so much, like, go on with this Death Riders thing to the point where we're not really sure what they're fighting for. Are they trying to take over AEW? It felt like we had sort of turned, like, some momentum a few weeks ago with that promo that Moxley cut with Renee Paquette. They kind of felt like they were like, "Okay, like, we need to reestablish what this is," and it felt like they did a good job of that with that promo. And then it kind of felt like like I said, the past few weeks of Death Rider stuff hasn't been bad. It's not terrible. I liked the Cope taking everybody out with concertos. It just feels very by the numbers.
It does, and like I said, I feel like this pay per view was great up to the end, and they just didn't stick the landing. They could have had one of the all time great pay per views if they were able to stick the landing in the main event.
Yeah, I we were kinda talking about that, and like I said, I had to be up at 6 AM. Putting that cool down match at the end doesn't necessarily hurt me all that much.
Well, that has been your AEW Revolution review show here on All Elite Radio. We will be back this coming Sunday to catch you up in the week of AEW wrestling action. Ashley, where can we find you on the super information super highway?
I am always skiing along with the live shows, and that is at groovyash.bsky.social and Blue Sky.
And until we see you next time on All Elite Radio, stay stunning. Have a great week.
Old habit.